Peter Boyle played a hippie-hating manufacturing worker in 1970. His film made millions and made him famous. But things went wrong horribly. His character attacking hippies drew applause. They adored his racist outbursts. He never wanted to portray his violent character as a hero. The role tormented him so profoundly he never played violent characters again. His family is still reeling from the trauma. Peter Boyle was born October 18, 1935, in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Father Francis Xavier Boyle was a popular Philadelphia TV personality. He hosted Chuck Wagon Pete, a Western-themed children's show, from 1951 to 1963, and Uncle Pete presents The Little Rascals, an after-school program. He showed kids The Little Rascals and the Three Stooges on that show. He also appeared on WPTZ's Ernie Kovac Morning Show, currently KYW-TV. Boyle's family was Irish, French, English, and Scottish. He was raised in a conservative Catholic home with amusement and religious discipline. Alice and Sydney were Boyle's older sisters. He attended West Philadelphia Catholic High School for Boys after his family moved to Philadelphia. His childhood was formed by faith and order, not performing. After graduating in 1953, he changed his direction. The LaSalle brothers, Catholic teachers, recruited him. He lived in their residence for 3 years while studying in Philadelphia for a BA. After graduating in 1957, he no longer felt called to religious life. The monastic lifestyle was too much for him, and he needed a change. After leaving the monastery, everything changed. Boyle had spent years thinking he would work in religion, but that was over. Lost for a while, figuring out what occurred next. Acting was his solution. He joined HB Studio in NYC to study under Uta Hagen. Her instruction emphasized authenticity and emotional depth, encouraging actors to behave honestly. It suited Boyle, who had spent years studying discipline and contemplation. Life in NYC was hard. Boyle took any job to maintain himself because he had no consistent income. He was a postal clerk by day and a waiter and bouncer by night. He was Florence Hanford's television kitchen cameraman. Every job changed his perspective. He observed people and recorded their behaviors for future roles. He understood working-class struggles and used them to shape his acting technique. Boyle persevered despite financial difficulties. He started with tiny stage parts, then broke through in The Odd Couple. It wasn't much, but it kept him going. He was learning the trade, gaining experience, and proving himself worthy. He made another huge move in the late 1960s. He joined the Second City, Chicago's famous improv troupe. Boyle thrived in the group's biting humor and social and political commentary. Peter Boyle debuted in 1966 with an uncredited role in Sidney Lumet's drama The Group. 8 Vassar graduates navigated employment, relationships, and 1930s expectations in the film. Despite his modest role, Boyle got a taste of Hollywood on this production. Candice Bergen, Joan Hackett, and others starred in the film on gender norms and social struggles. This was just beginning. Despite his anonymity, he was already working on meaningful tasks. Boyle made his film debut in 1968 as General Heath in Graham Ferguson's political farce, The Virgin President. The film depicted a naive president who was easily misled by others, resulting in disaster. As the severe yet absurd general, Boyle gave the story weight and humor. The film didn't succeed, yet it fit into the countercultural movement that questioned authority in politics. Boyle was drawn to jobs that stretched boundaries, and this was one of his first chances to try. He played another minor but notable role in Haskell Wexler's pioneering medium Cool, a narrative that mixed reality and fiction starred Boyle as a gun clinic manager. The film was set at the violent 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago and featured real protest footage. This ambitious and innovative study explored media ethics and the growing gap between journalism and truth. Although Boyle's role was brief, the picture was one of the year's most talked about. Jack Shea directed sci-fi spoof The Monitors. Alien rule enforced peace through intense monitoring and total power in the novel. A Cold War-themed thriller with apocalyptic themes and dark humor starred Boyle as a production manager. The Monitors didn't sell well, but Boyle got to try out unconventional storytelling again. Joe arrived in 1970 when Peter Boyle was another struggling actor. He had little film and TV roles, but nothing notable. But that changed when he played the lead in John G. Avildsen's low-budget drama Joe. Despite costing $106,000, the picture grossed over $19.3 million in the US, shocking everyone. The 13th highest-grossing film of the year, a rare feat for an independent picture. Joe's audience response went beyond financial accomplishment. It was seen as a dismal representation of America at the time. Others saw much worse. Boyle played rage-filled blue-collar factory worker Joe Curran. He detested hippies, liberals, and late 1960s culture. He was more than enraged. He symbolized a burgeoning American left behind. Boyle almost declined the part due to its controversy. However, Norman Wexler's writing was snappy and authentic. Boyle understood the film wasn't about one man's intolerance. It was about generational terror, frustration. People couldn't look away from his intense performance. He wasn't Joe's stereotyped villain. He made him believable, making him more disturbing. Dennis Patrick plays rich advertising executive Bill Compton, whom Joe befriends. Two seemingly different men bond over their shared preconceptions as they converse. That leads to one of the most startling endings in that era's films. Riot at hippie commune. After killing his daughter inadvertently, Bill realizes it's too late. The film finishes on that heartbreaking note, shocking moviegoers. Boyle was surprised by what happened next. Audiences watched more than Joe. He was horrified by their reactions. The film criticized bigotry and violence, yet some didn't get it. Conservatives and construction workers praised Joe's outbursts. They cheered at sequences where he lashed out at hippies and liberals. Instead of being disturbed, they felt validated. Boyle was appalled. He had taken the position to challenge spectators, not to offer them a hero. Joe reconsidered his career after seeing people applaud him. He declined positions that endorsed violence or intolerance. That's why he declined the 1971 French Connection lead, a role that earned Gene Hackman an Oscar. Boyle didn't want to play another misconstrued role. He played Marvin Lucas, a political strategist who could turn a nobody into a politician, in The Candidate, 1972. Bill McKay, played by Robert Redford, is idealistic. He doesn't want victory. He simply wants to express himself. Lucas knows that won't work. He slowly changes McKay. Lucas is confidently played by Boyle. He's not evil. He's honest. Just knows the game. That's his unnerving trait. McKay barely recognizes himself after winning the election. The film's biting satire shows how politics turns people into products, and Boyle is at the center. The film received an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, and Boyle's performance makes it relevant today. In 1973's The Friends of Eddie Coyle, Boyle played a different manipulator. Dylan was a nice barman with frightening secrets. Eddie Coyle, a small-time gun runner hoping to avoid prison, was played by Robert Mitchum. Dylan pretended to be Eddie's friend, but actually a police informant. He wasn't exposed as a traitor by Coyle. Warm, laid back, and constantly listening. That made the treachery hurt more. It's too late when Eddie realizes what's occurring. Boyle masterfully captured Boston's dark, brutal criminal underbelly with his modest but powerful portrayal. Young Frankenstein, 1974, was a radical departure. He played the monster unexpectedly. Boyle made every movement count in the quiet part. His timing, facial gestures, and stumbles. Everything was hilarious. Though scary, the monster was endearing. Then that scene occurred. Standing on stage with Gene Wilder, grunting while putting on the Ritz. One of the film's funniest parts was his sloppy gestures against the song's perfection. Boyle showed he could do comedy as well as drama in the hit film. He played characters with 1,000 Lives Again in 1976. He played Wizard, an old cab driver who gave counsel but never helped in Taxi Driver. Robert De Niro's Travis Bickle admired him. Hope for knowledge. Wizard had little to offer. He talked about life, joked, and ignored serious questions. He'd worked too long. He saw too much. Boyle made him seem natural, like a late-night diner patron babbling to fill the silence. Dark and frightening, the picture depicted a metropolis on the brink. Boyle exacerbated that loneliness. His short sequences stayed with you. Hardcore followed. In 1979, Boyle played Andy Mast, a private investigator hired to find a missing female in California's underground porn industry. Mast was meant to help George C. Scott, the distraught father looking for his daughter, but he was no hero. He was filthy, cynical, and comfortable. Boyle played him as threatening and funny. You laughed, but felt awkward with him. He wasn't evil. Simply put, he had stopped asking questions. His arguments with Scott heightened the darkness of the story and showed that even the helpers were unreliable. Outland was his 1981 science fiction debut, a suspenseful thriller set on a Jupiter moon. High Noon in Space, directed by Peter Hyams, was named for its Western overtones. Boyle played corrupt mining colony administrator Shepard, who smuggled drugs. The miners were given amphetamines to enhance production, but the side effects were horrifying. They eventually caused madness and death. Shepard didn't care, hiding while workers died. That made him the perfect adversary for Sean Connery's Marshal William O'Neill, who wants to deliver justice to the colony. Boyle played Shepard with calm malice, never raising his voice but always asserting control. Its grim industrial design was influenced by Alien, 1979, and it initially received poor reviews but later garnered a cult following. People liked the interesting mix of genres, and Boyle's performance helped. Boyle resorted to comedy after playing a frigid villain. The Monty Python/Graham Chapman pirate satire Yellowbeard starred him in 1983. He played Moon, a supporting character in a Cheech and Chong, Madeline Kahn, and Chapman comedy cast. The film's story and production were chaotic. Its inconsistent humor and low attendance made it a box office flop. Boyle stood out by portraying his role with a steady, solid intensity as the cast went wild. The movie didn't work, but his subtle humor did. He returned to comedy in 1984 with Johnny Dangerously, a gangster movie parody. Featuring Michael Keaton as the titular character, the picture used comedic and criminal film tropes. Boyle played Jocko Dundee, a frightening and ridiculous mob lord. The film didn't garner good reviews, but Keaton aficionados have kept watching it. Boyle again showed how well he could combine comedy and drama, giving characters enough weight without overdoing them. He led a short-lived yet interesting TV series with Joe Bash about a beat cop nearing retirement in 1986. Joe Bash was unlike most police shows, which centered on action or huge investigations. It investigated loneliness, regularity, and a career-ending man's quiet troubles. The musical combined comedy and pathos in a way that felt ahead of its time, and Boyle provided a layered performance. Despite positive reviews, it was canceled after 6 episodes due to low viewership. Though brief, it displayed Boyle's ability to tell a story that didn't fit into any category. Peter Boyle's 1995 X-Files guest appearance in Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose is one of his most notable performances. This episode featured Boyle as Clyde Bruckman, a creepy life insurance salesman who predicts deaths. He played the part with black humor, melancholy, and empathy, making it one of the series' best episodes. The Darren Morgan-written episode had mystical overtones and emotional depth, and Boyle was lauded for his performance. Boyle's 1996 Emmy for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series was his sole win despite several nominations. Peter Boyle's path to playing Frank Barone on ELR began in Pandemonium. Boyle was a respected actor in 1996. Sitcoms were different from Young Frankenstein and Taxi Driver. He didn't anticipate the audition for CBS's new comedy to change his career, or that he almost missed it. Boyle flew his family to Los Angeles for the audition from Manhattan. A simple journey became a logistical nightmare. First, studio security denied him entry. After entering the gate, he couldn't find a parking spot. He went to the incorrect building, making matters worse. He was late, fatigued, and furious when he found his way. However, his frustration got him the job. Frank Barone was a grouchy, opinionated old man. Boyle accidentally brought that intensity to the audition. He wasn't acting. His annoyance was real. Afterward, show creator Phil Rosenthal said he came in hot and angry. "I recruited him out of fear." That wasn't a joke. Rosenthal and star Ray Romano thought Boyle was Frank Barone because he was intimidating and funny. Boyle became famous for his dramatic parts. He played violent, complex characters in comedy. His ability to be tough, witty, and warm when needed impressed the producers. He had impeccable timing, delivery, and the ability to make even the simplest statement funny. Meeting him was enough to realize he was their guy, no script reading required. That tumultuous morning changed Boyle's career. He joined the cast in 1996, fulfilling a role that defined him for 9 years. Frank Barone wasn't your typical comedy dad. He was lovable despite being rude, snarky, and politically wrong. Boyle kept Frank interesting. Under the grumbling and eye rolls, he gave him dimension. Real emotion and vulnerability occurred, and an old-school tenacity that made him more than a joke. Over 210 episodes, Boyle was a key player in Everybody Loves Raymond. He had legendary chemistry with Doris Roberts, who played Marie, his wife. People thought they were married because their bickering was so real. Boyle's banter with Brad Garrett, who played his tall son Robert, was a show highlight. 7 Primetime Emmy nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series from 1999 to 2005. Despite fame, he never won. This made him the only primary cast member to leave without an Emmy. This was a strange twist given how much he defined the series. Even when life was difficult, Boyle took his duty seriously. He had a heart attack on set in 1999. Many actors may have left, but Boyle returned to work quickly. He understood Frank's importance to the show and fans. He maintained performing despite his health issues. Every scene reflected such dedication. Frank felt real when he teased Marie or gave Ray bad advice. Holy, his signature phrase, naturally became classic. It felt fresh whether he said it with annoyance, shock, or humor. The phrase expanded beyond the show. Fans utilized it to react to anything startling in pop culture. Frank had multiple fantastic lines. His frank advice was expressed in sayings like, "You're born, you go to school, you work, you die." That summarized Frank. Funny, brutally honest, and lovable. Boyle played dramatic parts beyond sitcoms. In Monsters Ball, 2001, he played racist father Buck Rotowski, who battled his problems. The contrast with Frank Barone was startling. Boyle handled it as well as comedy. His portrayal heightened the film's racial and redemption themes. He played lighter roles like Father Time in The Santa Claus 2, 2002, and The Escape Clause, 2006. These family-friendly films exposed him to new followers and proved he could entertain all ages. All Roads Lead Home, 2008, Boyle's last film. Dedicated to his memory, the film explored family and sorrow. The honor was apt for a man who spent his career bringing characters to life in comedy and drama. Peter Boyle met Lorraine Alterman in 1974 while making Young Frankenstein. Rolling Stone journalist. Boyle, in full Frankenstein mask, saw her on the Mel Brooks set and asked her out immediately. A brave move. Though he looked like a patchwork Frankenstein, his confidence worked. They married in 1977 after dating for 3 years. Unexpected best man John Lennon attended their wedding. Through Lorraine's acquaintance with Yoko Ono, Boyle and Lennon became close. Not a casual celebrity relationship. They talked, spent time, and became friends. In December 1980, everything changed. Lennon was shot and killed in New York 2 days before Boyle's daughter Lucy was born. It was a time of both pain and delight. Boyle's life changed in October 1990. He had a stroke in Salt Lake City while filming and was unable to speak or move. For nearly 6 months, he was locked in his body and had to start over. He did speech treatment, fought for mobility, and slowly resumed performing. After a long rehabilitation, his determination got him back on television. Another horrific event occurred in 1999. While filming Everybody Loves Raymond, he became clammy and feeble. He ignored his chest pain, thinking it was nothing serious. Show's executive producer detected anything odd and ordered him go to the hospital. That choice may have saved him. A clogged artery triggered Boyle's heart attack. He returned to work 2 weeks after an angioplasty. Who had grown like family, were shaken by his near death. Boyle continued to play Frank Barone with humor and vigor until the program ended in 2005. He also battled rare blood disease multiple myeloma in his later years. He hid his diagnosis for fear it might impact his employment. He acted in Santa Claus 3 in 2006 while getting treatment. His health deteriorating. He died of medical complications at 71 on December 12, 2006. Lorraine, his wife, preserved his legacy. She raised millions for cancer research through the International Myeloma Foundation's Peter Boyle Research Fund. Ray Romano performs a stand-up show for him every year, using laughter to honor the man who made people smile his whole life. People thought Peter Boyle was Frank Barone because he played him brilliantly. He was expected to be grouchy like on Everybody Loves Raymond. Some made snarky jokes expecting a retort. Others invaded his space, treating him like old friends despite never meeting. Boyle knew celebrity brought this. It wasn't always easy. Indeed, he was nothing like Frank. He was deep-thinking and private. He struggled to distinguish himself from his 9-year character due to strangers' expectations. His family felt it. His wife, Lorraine Alterman Boyle, and children, Lucy and Amy, regularly contended with fans who perceived them as Frank Barone's extensions. People would talk to strangers like friends, or demand Boyle's personal information. Fame gave them comfort, but took away their privacy. Boyle cherished his family. He battled with seeing them lose their normalcy due to his success. The weight of Frank Barone never left him. Boyle had a successful career, starring in Taxi Driver in 1976 and Young Frankenstein in 1974. Robert De Niro and Gene Wilder were among his collaborators. Despite his past, people only saw Frank. Depression resulted from feeling stuck in one role. He spent decades showing he could play any role, yet the public seemed to have labeled him. Everybody Loves Raymond made Boyle happy. He wanted to be known for more than one role. He received proposals to bring Frank Barone back after the show ended in 2005. Spin-offs, advertising, and guest appearances could have made him rich. Boyle rejected them all. He didn't want to stay Frank. Despite rejecting up easy paychecks, he wanted to try different roles. His choice revealed his acting style. His craft was more important than money. He spent his life demonstrating his talent. One character wouldn't define him.